action report for the Appalachian Trail Section Hike from Carver's Gap to Highway 19E. Normally that is about a 15-mile trek, but because we went up on Grassy Ridge Bald, that added about 2 extra miles to it. So about 17 and a half miles or so. And I'm joined by Pink here, and we're both going to talk about this little trip a bit. And I'm going to give it to you, let you talk about your impressions of the trail, what you thought, and what you thought worked well, what didn't work well, what you wish you had changed, and take it away.
Yes. So it is by far the most picturesque part of the trail that I have been on. And there's many, but it's absolutely beautiful. The views are not to be beaten. There's layers and layers of blue mountains in the background and the most wonderful sunrises and sunsets. So definitely very much worthwhile. You have to work up to it because it does include some harsh inclines, and it's not an easy trail necessarily. The first couple of miles are fairly easy, and getting up to Grassy Ridge is not so bad. But then you have a long downhill, you have a very long 3-mile uphill to Little Hump, and then you have another downhill and a 2-mile uphill or 1.5 mile uphill to Big Hump Mountain. And that will get you at the end of your long 8-mile, 8.5-mile day. That's going to get you. So we went through a couple of gel packs.
That was one of the things she knew this. She recommended it. I discovered this. Yes, it absolutely works. That about halfway up one of these hills, and you're struggling. And I think one of our differences from most summits on the air activations is that in this case, we were doing a section hike. So it wasn't, a mile up the mountain or 2 miles up the mountain or whatever, and then back down again. This was, where you're carrying, it wasn't a day hike, I'll put it that way. So, we're carrying everything, food, water, tent, sleeping bags, sleeping pads, the whole 9 yards, cooking gear. Plus, I got the radio in the pack. So not your typical summit on the air activation. It was in fact a section hike. So a lot more gear involved, a lot heavier load. My pack weigh out, including water, was a little over 40 pounds. And yours, I think, was
35.
About 35, yeah. So, that's fully loaded out for basically 3 days out on the trail. Now, if I had done it, and I haven't done this yet, I probably should do that and do that in another video, what my section hike loadout looks like, what her section hike loadout looks like, weigh it all out. I know there are some sites online. We might just do a pack out list there with all the weights. But, I know if I had eliminated the radio, eliminated the water, and done, a base weight measurement without the food, water, radio, or even with the radio, just removing the water alone, because I carry a lot of water. I drink a lot of water. So I don't have any heartburn. Could I lessen my load by carrying less water and then, resupplying as I go along? Yeah, I could, but I choose not to. Just that's one of my things. So I had about almost 9 pounds of water in there. So if you take that out, that pack weight goes down significantly. But going back to what we were talking about, the gels, I was about halfway up, and I was like, man, I'm just starting to get tired and
running out of juice.
Reach into that pack and pull out one of those energy gels and slurp that down. And there's a little bit of pick me up to get me the rest of the way up that mountain. So I understand now completely why marathon runners, distance runners, endurance athletes use those things, because they do work, and I do recommend them. Go get yourself some, find something that you like, that you may have some special dietary needs. I don't know. But check them out, see what's out there, if that's something you might want to try.
Yeah, definitely. That's from my running days. That's an old trick when you're trying to finish a race. And I found that it's very helpful going up a long, tall incline. Definitely. You run out of juice at some point. You take a little break, take the gel pack, sit down on a rock somewhere, and guzzle down some water after. Definitely recommended to drink a bottle of water after it. And it'll get you the rest of the way, for sure.
If you hear something in the background crunching, that's Zeke, the not quite ready for the trail dog, who's chewing on a piece of bone. So we're just going to let him do that. He's out there in the yard, and we're just going to let him go ahead and do that.
So what happened with Zeke? Tell us.
So we did a little pre-hike to check and see if he was ready for this one, and it was absurdly hot here in the central Savannah River area of Georgia when we went on this hike. And even though most of the trail that we were on was very level, mostly canopied in the shade, Zeke was having none of it after about a mile. So, and I drink a lot of water, and I had not even had any water at that point. And he's just like, he's laying down. I break out the collapsible bowl for him, an item which I will review at a later date. But fill it with water, and he starts slurping. But he's just laying there with his head in the bowl. He's just
such a baby.
lapping up water. He's a big baby right now. So, we're going to work on him some more. Who knows? He may not be an ideal dog for the trail. We'll find out. We'll continue to work with him some. So he may be the Zeke, the chilling out at the house while we're on the mountain dog. We don't know yet. So what else were we going to talk about?
Let's talk about nature. Let's talk about the critters that we saw.
Okay. Well, it's like anywhere else in Appalachia. Fortunately, we didn't see any bears. That was a good thing. We did see plenty of deer. I actually spooked up a doe and her fawn. I came around a hairpin turn on the trail, and we kind of surprised the hell out of each other. And she jumped and I jumped, and she and the fawn bounded up the hill, and I continued on down the trail. But it was a pretty close encounter there. I mean, the distance was probably 6 or 7 feet away when I came around that hairpin turn.
Wow.
And then we woke up to deer, outside the tent. I heard something scuttling around. I would say scuttling. I could hear something moving in the brush. What's that noise? So I kind of carefully unzip the tent and I look out, and there's a deer. Just peacefully grazing next to the tent. I say next to the tent, maybe 20 feet away or so. Yeah. So
yeah, and we've had them come closer than that. I mean, within 6 to 10 feet on previous hikes. So they're definitely not afraid of humans, and that's a good thing. I think as long as we coexist and treat them with respect, it's a great thing. Let them eat the foods that they're naturally accustomed to. Definitely don't feed them, because we don't know how they're going to react, how their bodies will handle, human processed foods. But definitely enjoy seeing them. And chipmunks and squirrels, and what else did we have?
Plenty of birds. That's all I recall, actually.
Yeah.
I know that you had a bee at one point. That's in one of the videos. Yes. The deer are in the videos. I will tell you, one of the things that struck me was the size of the...
Okay.
Can I help you?
Oh, we're ignoring him? Is that what it is?
I have no idea. So one of the things that did strike me was the size of the does. I didn't see any bucks, but the size of the does was, to me, a little more surprising, or a little bit surprising. I thought about that, and being a hunter, I was like, oh man, these are some nice sized does. And then it dawned on me that I don't know what the hunting regulations are for that area, specifically on the trail. I would imagine there's probably very little hunting actually up on the trail. But I also realized, as somebody who's had to, dress out and pack out a deer, if I was doing that on foot on those hills, that's not something I would go to someplace easier to hunt than on the top of Hump Mountain or on the top of Grassy Ridge Bald. So
right.
I think there's probably less hunting pressure there, and also they see so many people. That's for the most part, I think they're a lot less scared of seeing humans coming down the trail.
Right.
So for the most part, they tend to ignore you. I think the one that I spooked was just purely shocked, because apparently she didn't hear me coming. I certainly didn't hear her. She was just standing there. Her and her fawn were just standing there feeding. But
yeah. Well, I think they know they're in a safe place, and so it's definitely making a difference, and it allows us to walk through the trail and see some beautiful moments in nature. Wildflowers, did I mention the wildflowers? Ooh, yes, lots of them.
And I haven't caught any flack yet, but I know some people are kind of thinking about this. But you'll notice a lot of times I'm way out in front of, I say way out in front, maybe a half mile, 3/4 of a mile out in front of Pink when we're on the trail. And two things there, one of the big sayings when you're out there is hike your own hike. Now, generally, we'll try to stay together. If we're doing a local trail, it's not too long. We're pretty well within reasonable distance of each other because we're talking or whatever. Out there, I get in my stride and I get my pace going. And so I'm a little bit faster hiker. But the other thing is she's stopping to take pictures constantly, and that slows her down. So most of the footage or the pictures that you get are actually from her and not me, because I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking, okay, next point is here. I got to get there by this time. And so I'm moving. That doesn't mean I don't stop to take some video, take some pictures of things that I find interesting. But she takes a lot more pictures and videos than I do. So having her along is double useful for me because she's getting video that I can use that I wouldn't have thought to get.
Yeah, I just enjoy documenting nature and sharing, with those who maybe aren't as fortunate or as seasoned and able to get to those places. So now, if we were with a larger group, because I do have a hiking group that we also go out with, we tend to stick a little closer together, or somebody would walk up to the next bend in the path and wait and make sure everyone else is still tracking, so we don't lose someone. I can tell you stories about people getting lost on the trail. That's for another day. Not my people, other people's people.
And one of the other things I talked about in the part 2 video of the section hike, I self-Murphy'd twice, actually. Well, one of them was kind of self-Murphy, one of them wasn't. The first self-Murphy was, I did remember, and Pink was carrying this, the battery pack, whatever you want to call it, the battery pack.
Yeah, charging station.
The charging station, to recharge our phones. She remembered her cord. Now, she uses an Android phone. I have an iPhone. I totally forgot to bring an iPhone charging cable. So I self-Murphy'd on that. And the other thing, my battery ran down a lot faster than it ordinarily would have. And I figured out why that was. One, the first thing was because I have an ID51A for a handheld, or that's the one that I like to take out because of its ruggedization. Eventually, I want to switch over to a Yaesu, an FT3DR, FT5DR, something like that natively does APRS. I know there's other options out there, like the Mobile Link. That's great. I'd love to have a Mobile Link, but they're not in stock. They're hard to find. So, plus I'm also looking at it in terms of less gear to carry. So if I have a handheld that's ruggedized and natively does APRS, that's great. I'd rather go that way. But since I didn't have that, I didn't have any D-Star repeaters within close range that I could ping using, connect to using the ID51. I was pinging APRS off of.
He's digging a hole.
And Zeke is digging a hole. Are you entertained, buddy?
Fervently digging a hole.
So I was using APRS Spy on my iPhone to ping APRS. And I didn't have it set on a very fast interval, but with losses in cell phone signal in certain places, struggling to find a cell phone signal, I had everything else off, had my Wi-Fi turned off because I knew I wasn't going to get a Wi-Fi connection out there. I think that contributed to how fast the battery ran down. So that caused me by the morning that we got up to go from Grassy Ridge Bald up to Hump Mountain, I was down to about 40% battery at that point. So I was only intermittently turning it off and on as I needed, or on and off as I needed to either take a picture, do some film, check gut hook, aka far out, to see where we were, see what kind of progress we were making. So I was using my phone as little as possible, and even then when I did turn it on to do video, to take some pictures, it was in airplane mode. I would take it out of airplane mode to check gut hook, aka far out, or going up on hump, checking SOTA goat to make sure I was within the activation zone, that kind of thing. So I was conserving battery as much as possible, and even with that, it just kept, by the time I got down to, and I talked about this in the video, by the time we got into Mountain Harbor Resort, my phone literally died. It ran completely out of battery as we're walking the trail into Mountain Harbor Resort. Fortunately, they were awesome people. Immediately I said, hey, do you have a cell phone charger I can borrow for an iPhone? They're like, sure, here, use this one. I mean, just didn't even blink. Great people. I'll let you talk a little bit more about Mountain Harbor because I know you got more experience with them. But yeah, they're just an absolutely fantastic outfit, and I will put a link in the description below to Mountain Harbor. So if you're in the area there, Carver's Gap, Hump Mountain, 19E, Roan Mountain, that area, and you need a place to stay, or if you need a shuttle, check out Mountain Harbor.
Yes, so they are on Highway 19 East, North Carolina 19 East, and they're just 0.2 of a mile downhill from where the AT crosses. And it's a very, very busy road, so be careful. It's best to cross immediately when you come off the trail because it's a little wider there. Otherwise, you're coming up against a blind curve for the people coming up the hill, and that is very, very dangerous. So, be sure to, I know you'll be exhausted and you'll be trying to get there as quickly as you can, but be safe. There is a lovely private trail that they have created that connects to the road, so you don't have to go all the way down to their main driveway. And it's beautiful. It's beside a creek. They used to always, of course, have the 3 bed and breakfast rooms, tent camping available, and then
the treehouse.
I want to say the treehouse is
they have a treehouse,
fairly new, the last few years, and they do have building a barn. It's beautiful. It's old fashioned. It's just gorgeous.
That's a part of the hostel, yeah. And you have the hostel part of it, for which is primarily hikers are staying there, as well as a small general store where the hikers can resupply all kinds of freeze-dried food, drinks, snacks, that kind of thing in there.
Yeah, and they have really great food. I can't.
Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to try any. The food truck wasn't open when we were there, but
right.
It looks like they're expanding to build a permanent kitchen. So I'm sure that's going to be nice, and we'll absolutely check that out the next time we're up there.
They are the nicest people, always have been very helpful, and anything you need, you just call. You can park your car there overnight. It's just a few bucks. And the shuttle is very affordable as well. And they'll allow you to team up with other folks to ride the shuttle back up to Carver's Gap or wherever you had parked and started the trail. They're absolutely amazing people, family owned for generations now. So it's definitely a good thing. Check them out.
So I want to talk a little bit about gear reviews. And in the video where I talked about Field Day 22 plans, I talked about, we're going to talk about these.
Yes.
The Gooder sunglasses. And as you can see, Pink has her pink Gooders. I have these, as I had mentioned before, we've heard these things advertised on Backpacker Radio, the podcast Backpacker Radio, and had to check those out. Like I said, I'm hell on sunglasses. I will lose them, break them, scratch them, sit on them, step on them. So I don't buy expensive sunglasses. So at $25, I had to try these out, and I will tell you, they are great. I love them. How do you like yours?
Yes, lightweight, comfortable. They have these wonderful little grippy pads right here so they don't slip once you place them behind your ear. Very
hers
comfortable.
do. Mine don't, but they're tight. They're tight without cutting off circulation to
Yes.
your eyeballs, you know. So they're snug. I wore these throughout the trip, at least when the sun was out. Very comfortable, didn't slip, didn't slide, stayed in place. They work great. They are polarized. And as I mentioned before, I'll probably get some different ones. This isn't exactly my frame style that I would normally get, but we bought these retail at a store locally just to try them out. I will tell you, if you're shopping, you may not want your kids to be looking at the names. This pair is not bad. And I don't know if you can see, oops, I guess not, but that is I have these on vinyl too, is the model name for these, and yours are I think it says it on the inside of the frame.
Does it?
Yep.
Okay.
Put the other side there. Aphrodite in the streets and the sheets. That's the model of these sunglasses that Pink has.
Yes.
So
love them.
Yeah, absolutely recommend these things. They're $25, so you can't go wrong. You know, you're not going to be out a lot of money if something happens to them. And they work. They do what they're supposed to do. They stay on your face and they block the sun. They're polarized. Can't say enough things about these sunglasses. I love these things.
Super stylish.
Speaking of which, and I've had this question before, and you all know Pink's trail name is Pink. That's why I call her Pink. I now have a trail name.
Yay!
And my trail name is Antenna. And how I got this trail name is
so Lou walks about a half a step faster than I do. So I told him, you know, hike your own hike, go ahead, and, you know, we'll meet up at the next major intersection, or, you know, because I'm seasoned and he doesn't have to babysit me. But then in between, we would pass other people that were going either, you know, towards or away, and we would check on each other and send little messages. You know, if you see the guy with the antenna sticking out of his backpack, you know, that's my sweetheart, and, you know, tell him I'm okay.
and periodically somebody would come up, because I'm not the fastest hiker in the world either. But, you know, I would pass somebody coming up behind me, or if I was taking a rest stop, I was at a place where I was going to stop and wait for her to catch up. Somebody would come along and go, "Oh, you're the guy with the antenna." So that's where the trail name came from. My trail name now is Antenna. So that brings up something else. And a lot of you are probably wondering, well, you know, you're passing word to other hikers about where you are and what your condition is. Lou, you're a ham radio operator. I told Christine way early on, I said, if you ever go to a ham fest with me, or if you go to a meeting of the local amateur radio club with me, the first thing people are going to ask are you getting your license too? And I'm sure a bunch of you are going, Lou, you're a ham. Doesn't that seem like a self-solving situation? And as a matter of fact, I am happy to say that
yes,
this is a situation that is being solved, and
yes,
she is studying for her license. She's going to try to do technician and general in one shot. So, because she also wants to do Parks on the Air and Summits on the Air activations with me as a tandem. So we are working toward that, and hopefully here in the next couple of months, she'll have a call sign.
Yes, I can't wait.
So a couple other items I did want to talk about. Self Murphy, the other Self Murphy that I had, when we got on Grassy Ridge Bald, there was enough tall enough vegetation that I could activate from up there, sling the end-fed half wave up into a tree, and worked fine. I was thinking that would be the same situation when I got on Hump Mountain. Didn't happen. Got up there was some rhododendron. It wasn't particularly tall, and even where it was is over off, you know, the peak of the summit. So there was no good way to get an antenna up really good. So that really affected me on HF. The first antenna I threw up was the KM4 ACK end-fed half wave, and I was going to review that here. Unfortunately, well, there will be a review forthcoming, but what happened was I have that one cut for 40 right now, and it was just too long for me to get up adequately to do any HF work with. So I pulled it back down, put up the spark plug antenna that I have cut for 20 meters. I was able to get on the air with that and make a few contacts. I thought going in that with it being field day, contacts would be hot and heavy, but between band conditions and me being QRP, it just didn't work well. Thank God for the ID51A and UHF and VHF, and I was able to get 3 contacts off there. That got me a good activation for Hump Mountain. But Jason, don't worry, I will be talking about your antenna in a future video, because I did use it on a subsequent POTA that I haven't done the video for yet. So that one is coming. Another thing is, if I had had a mast with me, that situation could have been resolved. And I actually have 2 collapsible masts, 2 carbon fiber collapsible masts that are on order, but they are back ordered. And the last I checked, they're not supposed to be shipped until August or September, something like that. They are SOTA beams masts. I'm thinking I might cancel that order and go with some spider beams masts instead. Because I noticed that those are in stock. So if anybody has any recommendations on that, drop it down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Is there one better or worse? Should I wait on the SOTA beams masks? Should I go ahead and get the spider beams? So those masks. So let me know in the comments below. Also, the X6100, this IU X6100 worked great. I have no complaints about that. Fantastic rig. Had a group of hikers come up and actually, and they were just resting on the top of Hump Mountain, and they stopped and chatted. They were taking, we thought they were going to set camp up, but they were just taking about a 30-minute, 45-minute break. And one of the guys kind of wandered over and said, "Oh, that's a nice rig." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And we talked radios very briefly, and they were using FRS radios on the trail. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. It might be worth being able to, depending on what you're doing, have an FRS radio, since they are becoming very popular on the short duration hikes for communications amongst groups. So you might be able to find out some, useful information that you wouldn't get through amateur radio necessarily, just because there's a larger user base out there for FRS. Your mileage may vary. I'm prepared to take some heat for even suggesting that, but that's okay. That's about all I've got on this one. Was there anything you wanted to add?
Yes. By the way, do you know what the sweetest sound is when you're doing a ham activation and having contacts?
What's that?
The sweetest sound is, "Please stand by for second operator."
There you go. So look forward to that sweetest sound, "Stand by for second operator," coming soon to hiking and hamming. And the last thing, another piece of gear, if I can get it out of the case over here, that, well, you're going to start, another piece of gear that you're going to start seeing in hiking and hamming videos, the Lab 599 TX500. And I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure I got the last one that's currently available for retail sale from HRO. So in playing with this thing so far, really love it. I broke it out when I got it, threw the spark plug antenna into a tree out here in the backyard, just ran coax out the back door, was sitting on my couch. It wasn't even in the shack. I was just sitting on my couch with this radio on the coffee table, and got a QSO with Cayman Islands. So I know it works. Took it to work the other day and was showing some guys there who have similar interests, both from a hobby perspective, that are trying to get into amateur radio, or who are interested in amateur radio, but also from a professional perspective. Don't want to go into what I do for work, but there's a professional perspective there as far as radio. So I did a quick little demo, out of the back of my 4Runner, and I'm trying to remember now. I want to say it was a Massachusetts contact from down here in Georgia. So, and that's with less than ideal band conditions that we've had lately. So, like it so far. I'm still kind of tweaking and trying to figure out how to get the digital work right. I'm having a few little issues with that. It seems to be a common problem, but I think I'll get it worked out. So hopefully I'll have it up running FT8 here before too long, other digital modes as well. So that's all I've got.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, and we're looking forward to taking you hiking and hamming again soon.
See you soon.
So this is the after action.
Sorry. It's a mosquito. Yes, yes,
Such
yes.
as coughing.
Wow.
Sorry.
Hands. Oh, yes. Jazz hands or witch's hands.